Hello everybody, welcome back to Sniper Sundays, the first Sniper Sundays of 2020. I hope you're all well and had a great weekend, and hope you all had a great Christmas and New Year's holiday. So we are back at it now. We're back. The market's going to be back to normal tomorrow. Most retail traders, hedge funds, banks, everyone um, who are going to be hitting the market back tomorrow. So it's going to be trading as usual. So community's back as normal. And yeah, the markets are going to be back as normal as well. So I've mentioned a couple of times over the sort of period, over the Christmas and New Year's period, that we did see quite a bit of increased movement compared to normal years. It's the first time I've seen that much movement in the market during the Christmas and New Year period. So there was a lot of movement going on, and of course we know there was big news with the last week. There was big news with the US and Iran situation. So first off, I'm going to start with the calendar. I'm just going to start off with this first, as always. Now, like I always say, you have to know what fundamentals are coming up the week ahead. You always need to know what's coming up in the next day, or the next couple of days, or even the next week, because you need to know what can affect the trade that you take. So, for instance, if you're taking a trade on a pound pair, and then there's news later that day or news the next day, you need to know that that's coming, because you need to know anything that can affect your trade. So here we're just going to look at this week's fundamental calendar. It's actually quite quiet. We do have a bank holiday in Italy, but as I said, the market's more or less getting back to normal. But there's no high impact news tomorrow, as you can see here. There's no high impact news for Monday. On Tuesday, we have very little news again. A little bit of US news on Tuesday, manufacturing PMI, but nothing really that's going to move the market too much. Wednesday, we got some Aussie dollar news, a little bit of US dollar news, the high impact, but again, nothing really sort of doing much to the market, or going to make the market move too much. Then we got some Australian dollar news again on Thursday, and Canadian dollar news later on Thursday as well. But again, nothing too major. So nothing major sit really Monday to Thursday, but then Friday is the busier day. So it's the first Friday of the month. So what does that mean? It means it's non-farm payroll. So non-farm payroll is on Friday. We've got non-farm payroll, employment change, unemployment rate coming out from America. The biggest fundamental on the economic calendar that comes out each month. So that is out on Friday. Then we've got Canadian unemployment rate as well. And then we've got Aussie dollar retail sales. So we've got a fairly quiet week fundamentally up until Friday, when things then will start getting busy. So as I said, we have this news, which we can see on the calendar. But things that we can't predict is things like when we woke up, or in the UK, when we woke up, or for most of the world, when you woke up on Friday and saw the news that there was the US and Iran situation. So that's one of the reasons we didn't take a trade. So last week was, in the rule of thumb is, you don't really need to trade over Christmas and New Year's, because we've got the whole year to trade. That's the time when there's low liquidity in the market. So you don't force trades, and you don't try and take trades at times like that in the market. Now the market gets back to normal next week. However, with the increased movement, Thursday, Friday, I was actively looking for trades. But then on Friday, when we had that big news that came out, obviously we saw the big effect that it had on the safe havens like gold. It had an effect on oil, and it affected the market with Japanese yen pairs and so on. Now, we cannot schedule that in. We cannot schedule that information coming out. We never know when something like that can happen in the market. That's why it's always important that no matter what, you always have a stop loss and you always have risk management. Now, on Friday, I mentioned that we're having a quiet day. Because I don't really want to take any trades and add a major amount of risk. So here is just one article I just pulled up. Today, the market next week can be at any time. Trump could make a tweet, or some news could come out that could majorly change the market, or the direction that we're looking at a pair, or either in a trade. So to next week, you have to, as always, make sure that your stop losses are in place. Because if Trump comes out, like guys who have been in the group for a little while, we all know this now. Trump could come out, give a little tweet, say something about what's the current situation, and then gold could blow. Gold could. There's so many different things that can happen. We know that gold moves the market and affects the US dollar, the Japanese yen, and so on. So obviously it's going to have a big effect. And obviously anything like this is one of the biggest things in the news in the world right now, is the threat, the attacks happening in Iran, and the whole escalating situation. People are not sure what's going to happen. There's uncertainty. Uncertainty makes investors worried. That's why they put money into safe havens like gold. But also, like, we don't know what's going to come next. It's very, very uncertain at the moment. Here we can see Trump says US ready to strike 52 Iranian sites. So there you have it. Over the weekend, you can see this news came out 9 hours ago. If you took a trade on Friday and you're holding over the weekend at a time when it's the biggest news in the world had just been released on Friday, and we don't know what's going to happen next, that's why we don't want to take a trade and hold a trade. Because, for instance, it may not happen, but Trump could come out and say something, or Iran could do something, or even say what they're planning to do, or that they're going to attack back and so on. Then the market could go crazy, and this is while the market is closed. So then when the market opens on Monday or Sunday evening, Monday morning, I've explained this before, just because you have a stop loss doesn't matter. Your broker will not keep to that stop loss. If the market moves so much, it can skip past your stop loss and you can have a bigger loss than expected. So that's all risk. That's losing money, high risk, high risk. And we want to stay away from that. We're here to trade, not to gamble. So you trade this week, now that we know, we'll find out a bit more what's happened over the weekend and how the market reacts. But we don't want to take a trade on Friday, leave ourselves open to something bad happening, and basically having big gaps. So to get all of that out of the way now, let's start getting to the charts, because we've got lots of charts to go over. I mentioned this on Friday. We've got lots and lots and lots this week. I expect it to be a very, very busy week. It's quiet fundamentally, but obviously we have that news with Trump that I just explained, or not even with Trump, but the US and Iran. So that could happen at any time, but fundamentally there's loads of things popping up all over the place. So I'm excited, and I think we're going to have a busy week. I'm also going to be giving out some intraday trades, which I'll explain a little bit more as we get through these charts. So let's start with Euro USD here. So we've been following this pair for a little, as always, been following it quite closely. So I originally, last Sniper Sundays, had this sort of level mapped out. I was expecting price to come up and tap, which we did. So on the back of last Sniper Sundays, we pushed up from here, pushed up into that level, and we sold off quite sharply, a bit quicker than I expected. And on Friday, we saw the increase push down. So we saw the push down from here. But as explained, I was waiting for a retest to make sure that this is definitely going to hold as resistance. And just then we'll be looking for maybe a retracement or a retest, maybe a Fibonacci retracement. But on Friday, we continued to push down when that new when we saw the news that was happening in the market. We saw this continue to push down lower. But then what we saw is then at the end of the day, we've actually spiked back up on the daily candle, and we've created this sort of 4-hour morning star to sort of have a bit of a reversal. We see that we've sort of rejected the back of this trend line. Now, I do see that this pair is going to come down. I've explained on the last Sniper Sundays, expecting this to come down to around these levels, to perhaps touch this third touch of this trend line, or even come back down, break the trend line, but not break the trend, and come down and retest the previous higher low. So you can see here this is the daily chart. You can see here we're starting to make a nice trend here. Higher low, making a higher high, coming back down, make a higher low, can make an equal higher low, and then I believe it's time for Euro USD to actually start pushing a little bit higher. But so immediately, what I think is we can see, I'm actually going to get rid of this trend line for the moment, is what we were looking for last Friday was a retracement before we look at taking a short from around these sort of levels, but we continue to push down lower. We have now pushed down lower, and we're starting to have a bit of a retracement. We've come up to the 38% retracement level. I think that we may come up a little bit higher. I'm just going to get rid of this level that I had on to make this a bit more clearer. I think we're going to push up here. We've had this nice morning star formation on the 4-hour. We're going to push up here either to the 50 or 61.8%. And if we just look left, you can see here this comes into a really nice level of resistance as well. So now if I just take out away this Fibonacci for the minute, we can just see nice and clearly that if price comes back up into this region, this could be a left shoulder, this is a head, could be making a right shoulder. We find some resistance here, then we can have a nice trade down and push down towards this third touch of this trend line, and I said maybe even push down lower. Now what lines up quite well with that trend line is this Fibonacci. You can see if we do pull back, we pull back to the 38% at the moment. We could pull back to the 50 or the 61, and you can see there the second extension on the Fibonacci lines up perfectly with this this trend line. So we could come if we do see the price push back up into here, and we see the price action, we do see rejection again, and price action shows us that we're slowing down, and we get the signs that we want, like a evening star formation, shooting stars, and so on, along with the pattern playing out here, head and shoulders, and we've also got the Fibonacci here that we're making a 61.8% retracement. We could be looking at a nice little trade down, maybe intraday, maybe a couple of days, a sort of trade, something like this. We'll be looking at coming down into these levels. A nice risk reward here. So that's something that we're looking out for on market open. Then once we get down to these levels, we'll be looking to see if Euro USD can then from there start to push up higher and push up to the upside. Euro GBP, one I'm watching carefully as well. I pulled up a fib on this last week with last Sniper Sundays, expecting this to push back down a little bit. But first we thought we might be able to come up and tap, I'll just get rid of this for a minute, that we might be able to come up and tap the 0.8600 because we were so close, but we didn't actually make it there. And now we are pushing, we've dipped below the 0.8500, back above it again, so quite choppy. Here we've got a bearish day, and then the next 2 days have sort of outdone that. So it's been sort of up and down and moving sideways. So I was looking at the Fibonacci pulling down from here and coming back down to test this 61.8% retracement level. You can see how that lines up beautifully. I do still think that we have another push down here on Euro GBP before pushing up higher. Overall, I do think that this is going to be there's going to be a nice long trade and one that we can hold on this. But I do think that maybe at the start of the week or at the beginning we may just see a final push down. If I just put on this other trend line that I had on here, you can see here on a daily chart with this daily trend line 0.1, 0.2, and we just keep tapping against it, keep tapping against it, keep tapping against it, and we're failing to break. I'm going to be looking to see if we find any weakness here around this resistance level to see, again, we could possibly have a little intraday trade down. If I just zoom out here, guys, what we can see is that we've had this impulsive move up here. We've had a push up. Then we're now having the retracement back down. On this retracement back down, if we just look carefully, even though we come back above the 0.8500 level here, even though we come back up, you can see on this retracement back down, we're sort of making lower lows, lower highs, lower lows, lower highs, lower lows, lower highs. So we're almost trending down at the moment. And unless this can break above this level, which is acting like a counter trend, if we can break above that, then we're off, I think. But I think from here, we're going to see another move down, possibly make a new lower low past here, and come down to tap that that Fibonacci that I was showing you, and come down to those levels. And if we can do that, then from here, just like Euro USD, I think we're going to have a long-term long trade here. This will be the swing trade. But what I'm looking out for early next week is the possibility of a short trade back down first. So you could have a nice little trade here, something like that, to bring us that down into the 0.8400 level. So that's on our watch list for next week. Euro AUD, this one's been a bit choppy. You can see here, just nice and clear, we broke out of this sort of triangle formation that was forming, broke out of the trend line here, but we never broke the trend. We just came back down and tested the second point on the trend line. See how we broke, and then we just came down and found support. So I've had this resistance and this support drawn on for some time, and then yeah, this has just been a bit choppy here, choppy around this level. You can see consolidating. It's been consolidating around here. So we just use this actually to draw the range, which I like to do. Very, very useful tool, as I've explained before. When you see a range or see a consolidation, highlight it with this tool. And you can see we've broken above here now. So we've actually had a bullish engulfing on the previous 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 days. So showing that now momentum might be changing to the upside. So this is what we're waiting for, waiting to see a sign first. Here we've just been consolidating. We don't want to get stuck in a trade here, look at taking longs or shorts, because we had a support here, and for longs, we didn't know whether the bears had finished with this just yet. If we drop down to the 4 hour, we can see we've had a breakout of this. You see we've had a breakout of this consolidation zone. So we've broken out now, and you can see here we're coming back, just tapping it, hitting it once, hitting it twice, hitting it 3 times, acting as support. Now, I do like this to now push up to the upside, but not just yet. I think we're going to have a little pullback down, one more time, come down into sort of these regions, as you can see down here, sort of this level of support maybe. You can see we've got this level of support down here. But I see another push down, and we may even be able to capitalize on that push down. The reason I see that push down is you can see that we've broken out here on the 1 hour, but nothing's been very convincing on the 1 hour. We pushed up, then we had a bit of a hanging man, bearish engulfing, push back up again, shooting star, doji candle. We're sort of banging our heads off this little area of resistance here. Right now, we could possibly, an intraday trade that I'll be watching, but we have to see how the market opens with this news over the weekend, because this could change everything. But this is what we see at the moment, so we'll have to evaluate if there is big changes on market open. But we can see we might be able to get a really nice risk reward and a nice trade down, maybe 2-3% or something like that, risking 1%. So you can see here, guys, with the intraday trades, I really want you to stick to the 1% rule, because you can see here, if we're taking lots of intraday trades like this, risking 1% to make something like 3%, we can gain 3% of your account from here. Euro USD, I spoke about that. That could be a little 2% trade. Euro GBP could be 2-3%. So, for instance, these if we can capitalize on these trades, there's a possibility that we're going to be able to we can start stacking up the percentages. So do not over leverage. We might have a very busy week. So I want to keep the risk management very tight. For instance, if we had 5 trades at once, all running at once, that's going to be 5% of your account risk, because you're risking 1% on each trade. So therefore, you need to make sure you don't risk any more than 1%, because if you're risking, say, 5% on a trade, then you're going to have 5 trades on. That's 25% of your account at risk, which then everything goes out the window. Psychology, you start doing irrational things. Please keep to the 1% rule. So from here, we're looking at a possible push down, and then into this level, then I'll be possibly looking at long trades from here for the bigger move up. This also would make a nice retracement. We could still pop up a little bit higher, guys. So we're watching around this level. We could pop up a little bit higher. We might we might even come up a little bit higher here, just test the highs one more time, a spike to the upside or something, and then push down. So I'll be watching out. But yeah, we may have a retracement here, and then to push up higher. If we can come down to 50, maybe 61.8%, we might retest these areas of resistance here. If I just highlight these, you can see here we've got a bit of an area of resistance here. Resistance, pull it straight through. So it could come back down to around the 50%. So I'm keeping an eye out for that one. Euro NZD, nice clean chart on this at the moment. A lot of you guys show me that you're still holding this trade that we have from the very top. Still running about 6% profit on this one, 1,000 pips. Haven't already taken profit on this. 1,000 pip trade we hit on this, and we're still holding. So it may be looking like it might be time for the hedge long trade, or even for people who haven't got this trade, it looks like we may be looking for a long trade here soon. Similar to Euro AUD on the daily, as I explained, how we've now just seen a bit of bullish momentum to break out of this consolidation zone. Similar situation here of Euro NZD. You can see here we've been sort of consolidating for a little while around here. And now we've broken up and we've broken out of that level. So if I just zoom into the 4 hour, similar situation. I was looking at possibly taking a long on this last week when we dipped back down into this level here. But given the time of day on Friday and the situation, it wasn't the right time to take a trade on the New Zealand dollar pair. So I'm watching out for this one. Again, similar situation. You see 4 hour, got hanging man, bearish engulfing, starting to slow down around here. You can just see these spikes to the upside, doji candle, shooting star, doji candle. We're sort of having a double top here on the 1 hour, almost on the 1 hour time frame. So we could see a push back down from here first, push down from here into sort of this region, and then bang, we can explode to the upside. Again, intraday, we may be looking for a little short trade down, come down into these levels, and then once we get down to these levels, we may then look at taking, hopefully, be seeing us taking this long trade. I do like this to push to the upside now. So I'm looking for that pull down into sort of these regions. May even just come back down to test the top of this resistance once again. Once we get that active support here, then we might blow off to the upside. So I'm watching out for that. Euro JPY, something I've marked out, I've been looking at here. Euro JPY, so a nice clean chart. What we can see here, 0.1, 0.2, came down and made 0.3 on Friday. Saw Japanese yen pairs push down, then we had a little spike up at the end of the day. What we can see here, I just marked out really clean. So price action can be so, it is the main thing that we need to look out for and understand. Along with support and resistance, it just makes things so clear. You understand how to view it. Here we can see we've made a double top, come down, we've broken through support, but we haven't come back up and retested support and to act as resistance to confirm this level of support. So we made a high, made support, found resistance, double top, came down, tested support, broke through. Now we need to come back up and retest that level. Here we just had 1, 2, 3, a third touch on the trend line. So I think we're going to now come back up here. Nice little sort of morning star formation on the 4 hour here as well. I think we're going to push back up into this region here. And if we can find that as resistance, if we can find resistance there, I then believe that we're going to see another push down on Euro JPY. So we may be looking at trading the little trade up here as a little intraday trade, and then looking at a trade coming down. And then longer term, I think that this is going to be going back up along with other Euro pairs. You can sort of see a pattern here of Euro pairs that I'm looking at a push down with Euro USD, looking for a push down, but then before a bigger push up. Same with Euro GBP, looking for this to sort of push down into this region before a push up. And then I'm also looking at something similar with Euro Euro JPY. I think we can see here on this daily chart, higher highs, higher lows, higher high, higher low, higher high. We could come down and perhaps test this level here, create a higher low, and then we might see the bigger move coming back up. But we want to see how price reacts here once it pushes back into this region. We find resistance, see we're going to have this sort of left shoulder, head, right shoulder, push down, but then we'll only be coming down and testing the neckline of this whole head and shoulder move. Left shoulder, head, create a right shoulder, and then push up to the upside. So we might create a right shoulder here now, push down to this neckline, and then push back up to the upside. Euro CAD. So lots of pairs, guys. Look, we covered 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This is the 6th Euro pair. Kept this nice and clean as well, just to show you how simple it can be, guys, with what I'm teaching you. You can see here 0.1. This was 0.2 here. Then we had 0.3, and we sort of been playing around with 0.3 for quite some time and consolidating. Very, very choppy here, EuroCAD. You can see here, this is the weekly chart. So you can see here, up, down, up, down, up, down. We've been consolidating on the weekly for quite some time. I'll just highlight that. Again, the range just shows you so clearly what is actually going on. So we've been consolidating for quite some time. But if I just clear this off and go back to our trend line, what do? We adjust the trend line when we have a fake out like this. So we adjust that trend line. You can see now what last week has done is come down and test that trend line one more time, and we have failed to break out once again. So keeping a close eye on Euro CAD and also keeping a close eye on Canadian dollar pairs next week. I think we can see a push to the upside on CAD pairs. So here, if we just drop down to the daily, we can see we've had this really nice daily pin bar rejecting this level. This is a really strong level of support here, as you can see on the daily chart, 0.1, 0.2, 0.3. We've now dipped back into that level, spiked, had this daily doji candle stroke nearly a pin bar. So we're showing rejection here. So we've got rejection on the weekly, we've got rejection on the daily, rejection of the daily support as well. Then 4 hour, we've got this nice morning star formation, beautiful reversal sign, reversal candlestick formation, 1, 2, 3, morning star formation. Bang, we're turning around now, so it looks like we may be able to push up. I'll just go back to here and just get rid of this so we can see it a bit more clearly. Go back to the 4 hour. So, like other pairs, if I just drop down to the 1 hour actually, I do think that this can now push up to the upside. But what I'll be watching for is you can see that we're just finding a little bit of 1 hour resistance. Just look at this 1 hour chart here. We're still coming down, low lows, lower highs, low lows, lower highs, lower lows. This is the last lower high that we could be making. We can see here just below the last lower high. We push down here. If we see a push down here, and then we see some nice support once again, then we may be looking at taking a trade. We could push down. We could even push down to around this sort of level here. We saw this 1 hour sort of consolidation here. We could see a push down into sort of this region, and if we see price find support once again, we could be looking at a nice reversal trade here and a nice big swing trade on EuroCAD. So I'm keeping an eye out for that. EuroCAD is on our watch list, as you can see there with that nice 4 hour morning star formation. Now we're moving on to some pound pairs. So pound, let's have a look at this. Pound USD. So pound USD, we broke out the trend line, pushed up, retested the level just as explained on last week's Sniper Sundays, pushed up into this level, found resistance, and we actually sold off a lot faster than I expected. 2 days, a 2-day sell-off, because as I explained, we nearly always have more than one opportunity to enter the market. Last week wasn't prime time. We did have a nice fall off, but it wasn't meeting requirements with the time of the time of the year in between holidays and so on. So here we have this Fibonacci where we retested at 61.8% perfectly, like I showed in the Fibonacci webinar. See how this works so well. What also showed in the Fibonacci webinar is how we often retest that more than once. So now what I'm actually looking out for is for pound to actually push up here first, to come and push back up. So we see a stronger pound is also seeing Euro GBP push down as well. If we see a stronger pound push back up into this sort of region, maybe retest to 61.8, might not even come up that far, but I'm looking for this to push up and then for this to actually then push down. And once we see this push up, then we may be looking for that short trade down to hit this Fibonacci extension, the weekly support at 1.2750. We could be looking for a nice short trade down. What we might also see is to come up and retest this new trend that's been forming. Now that we've got 2 points, remember 2 points make a trend. Now we've got a trend line. We may see price come up, retap this level, maybe retap 132.350, and then from there we may see a nice short trade down. So that's the sort of setup I'm looking for pound at the moment. I am looking at this pair having a little push up. I'm expecting a bit of pound strength to come back into the market. I've had this little push down here on the 1 hour chart, so this 1 hour impulsive sort of move. Now I'm expecting to have a bit of a retracement. Once we see that retracement, then we'll be looking at taking the short trade down that we were looking at for last week. So short term, a little long, possibly up into these regions, and then once we get there, I'll be looking at us taking a short trade down. So that's sort of my my views on GBP USD at the moment. GBP JPY is a similar situation. Overall, I think it's coming down, but at the moment, we just had a daily break of the trend line, daily breakout candle here. So this will be interesting to see if we can break below this candle over the next few days. But we're coming to this level of support here. You can see this level of support, second point on the trend line, level of support here, resistance, resistance, nice clear chart, nice and simple, just showing where the daily support and resistance is. This is the daily, so we know that this level is strong. So what I'm expecting from here is to see a bounce, short term, like I said on GBP USD, expecting a short-term bounce or a short-term bullishness on pound, push up into that level, possibly a similar situation, come up, perhaps even test this trend line for the third time. 0.1, 0.2, you see 0.3 lines up perfectly here with 14250 and the trend line, and then we'll probably, if I just drop down to the 4 hour, have a very nice Fibonacci line up here as well. We take it from the extreme high to the low, if this is in fact the low, and what we could be seeing, because we could just sort of drop a little bit lower on market open, what we could be seeing is a nice push up to this 38 or 50% fib level before we have a push down. So I am overall bearish is short on pound pairs, but that's overall longer term or medium term I should say, because what I'm basically saying is short term I think we could have a nice little 100 pip move up, then we're looking at a bigger push down. But with pound USD, once we get down to sort of this level 1.2750, after we complete that fib, I think then we're going to see pound actually increase for the longer term. I think we could go higher than 1.350. I think we need to come down to around these levels, find some support, and then we're going to make the next move. So I do think that pound is going to continue to push down. That's sort of long-term trajectory. But at the moment, as I said, looking for a little push up first, and then to come down on pound. GBP CAD. So as I said, I mentioned CAD pairs are on my sort of watch list. I'm keeping an eye on them. So watching pound and watching CAD as well. So I having a look at this chart and just kept it really, really nice and clean. So you can see here we're sort of breaking through this daily support level. So we touched that, pushed up, and now we're pushing back down. We're just going to take this support, the nearest support level here, seeing how price is reacting from this. So we had this level of support. You can see the daily chart. We broke through, retest as resistance, push down, then push back up, retest as resistance once more. Bears took over, big bearish day, engulfing the previous 2 days, and now we're trying to push down, but we're struggling at this sort of support level at the moment. Drop down to the 4 hour. What we're looking at here again, we've got this new trend that's forming. 2 points makes a trend. What I'm watching is that we could possibly see again a little short-term bullish move up to around this level, where there we will see whether the bears are fully in control here and will just take us straight down from the third touch of this, or whether we're going to have a little bit more of a retracement and come up into sort of these levels, retest the last lower high, or create a new lower high here, maybe just below, and then roll over to the downside. So that's sort of what I'm looking at possibilities here. 4 hour, you can see we've got a sort of this inverted hammer. We just dropped down to the 1 hour. Here we've got this consolidation around here on the 1 hour. So I'm going to be watching out for this. Watching how price reacts around this. Let me get rid of some of these arrows, clean this up a little bit. And be watching at how price reacts around this consolidation zone, waiting for some signs, maybe a fake breakout to the downside, maybe a strong breakout to the upside, a strong candle. We could look at taking a trade, but I'm keeping an eye on this and around this level here. GBP AUD, another one I'm sort of looking at. So here, what I've drawn on here is to help us understand this sort of flag pattern that we can see forward. It's not a perfect flag pattern, but I'm just using this to help you understand the market moves in waves and what I'm expecting. So what we're seeing here, GBP AUD, is an impulsive, strong daily move down. Big move down on the daily chart. So now, like I've explained before, imagine you've been on a long run. This daily chart's been on a long run for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 days. So now it's catching its breath. It's just having some consolidation. It's just having a small retracement. The bears are having a breather. The bulls have stepped in, but I think that this is going to be temporary, and we're going to push up to. We could push up into this level. The daily bulls could take this up into around 1.900, where you can see we've got form of support over here, of resistance over here, which also acts as support. Broken through, push up, act as resistance, make a right shoulder. This could come up anywhere up as high as the peak here. And then also, we have a look at the Fibonacci. You might see a really nice push up. Tap this 38, tap this 50%, and then have a rollover to the downside and come down to this level here. So that's what I'm looking on GBP AUD. We'll be watching this to see how this reacts around this level. See how this retracement will continues, but I think that we can continue this retracement up to around these levels. At the moment, short term, higher high, higher low, higher high, higher low, higher high, higher low. Now making a double bottom possibly, higher low, and now we can push up and make that new higher high on the 4 hour, and then we roll over. Could be a possible short-term trade to the upside here. I'll be keeping a look at that on market open. So we've only covered euro and pound pairs. You can see how busy this week could possibly be, guys. And we're 35 minutes into Sniper Sundays. Now on to US dollar. USD JPY. So we saw USD JPY sell off last week. Obviously, I was expecting the weaker US dollar, as explained on Sniper Sundays. And then with the pound, with the war news coming from America, we saw the increased strength in Japanese yen, safe haven, and then obviously USD JPY that has an inverse correlation with gold. So when we saw gold push up to the upside, we saw USD JPY push down. Now we've broken through this trend line, but we're back down at sort of levels that we've been in this zone for a long time. So I'll just take this away. So again, just put on this range just to show that we could be forming a little range here. We could be seeing a little push up from 1.108.00. I need to watch this one. I think we have to stand aside on this one for the moment. It's not been a great pair to trade for the past couple of months or couple of weeks. As you can see here, we've just been within this zone between 108 and between 110. So less than 200 pip movement since the 14th of October. There's been quiet, this one, a sleeping giant really, because USD JPY is really usually a really nice pair to trades, but as I said, it's just been sort of ranging. Now, two options that could happen here. I'm going to be watching out for how price reacts, but I'm aware that price could dip back down into sort of these regions down here, into 106.70, 106.80, which could be the next or an equal higher low. So you see we've got a higher high, a higher low, and we then went up and made a higher high on this move. This can be classed as the higher high, and we could come back as far as this level and test this level before moving back up. However, we do have a bit of a range here, as we can see. We are on weekly support of 10800, and we are seeing some signs here on the lower time frame that we can see here. A pin bar bullish engulfing, but we did get a bearish engulfing straight afterwards. Then pin bar back up, quite choppy, but I'm keeping an eye on this one. 1 hour, you can see low lows, lower highs, lower lows, lower highs. We are still trending down, but yeah, I'm going to be watching out all around this sort of region. Here we can see this could be the 1 hour range that we want to watch. Here we can see a support broken through, resistance, acting as support again, resistance, acting as support. If we can break above here, then we can see a move back up. But at the moment, I'm going to be wary. I'm going to be watching for any move back up here. Price possibly find resistance. If we break through here, then I think we've got some more room to the downside. Possible trade either way, but we've got this consolidation zone that I need to watch out for. But remember, USD JPY, gold can be heavily affected over the next course of the next week. So therefore, USD JPY maybe as well. USD CAD. USD CAD coming down into the levels which we've been waiting for. So now remember, I said I'm watching Canadian dollar pairs. I've showed you Euro CAD. I've showed you GBP CAD. And now we're on to USD CAD. We waited patiently for this to come down and test this zone from last Sniper Sundays. Came down, not only tested it, but broke straight through. Looking quite bearish at the moment, but however, this is the daily chart, and what do we see? Not the strongest morning star formation, but we can see an attempt of one. We could possibly be seeing price making an attempt to reverse from here and push up to the upside. 4 hour, I'm going to get rid of this guy just to make it clear. 4 hour, choppy, not really doing too much just yet. I do think that there's going to be a move to the upside here, but we just need to be wary of how price is going to react. We could see on market open or early in the week a little push to the downside first, an attempt to bring in short sellers, or really, and then we can see maybe a reversal back up to the upside. So just basically, like other Canadian dollar pairs, Euro CAD and GBP CAD, I'm watching this little 1 hour consolidation zone, just like we have on quite a few pairs actually. We're watching to see whether we have a strong breakout, or we're going to continue to consolidate in this level. We don't want to get involved just yet. We're going to wait for the signs. This is waiting for breakouts or waiting for the consolidation zone to end. Is a little bit like when I've spoken about having that poker face, or waiting for the market to sort of flinch first. We're sitting here waiting. We know there's a consolidation zone. We've identified that, but we don't want to get caught by this looking like it's going to break out to the upside, taking a long trade, then it pulls back and then it bounces around here for another couple of days. So we're going to wait, let the market make its move first, and then we can take a trade afterwards. So keeping an eye on USD CAD, but my bias is to the upside, as well as USD Swiss. Really nice, same situation on USD Swiss as USD CAD. I highlighted this level, wanted price to tap this first before we could look at taking a long trade. Weekly chart here, you can see this really nice pin bar on the weekly chart. Daily, morning star formation. Remember, higher time frame, the stronger the candlesticks. Here, so we've got a nice daily morning star formation, bit of a doji candle afterwards. I am looking at this one carefully. I would like to see another little bit of a push down to test this level for us to take a long trade. and that will give us a really nice sort of risk reward. Stop loss just below, and we can see a nice trade back up. But at the moment, still watching this. We've just made our first push back up. I'm going to be watching for how price reacts once the bears try and step in one more time and push us back into this region. If we can find support, then I think we're going to then we could possibly be finding a nice little long trade up to the upside. Aussie dollar is the only one that's sort of tricky at the moment. It came so close to 0.7050, very close into this sort of resistance area that I was looking at. We have sort of just pushed down to the downside on the back of the news on Friday. At the moment, we come back down, resistance, come back down, acting as support. From here, we're sort of in the middle of two places at the moment. It's a bit hard to read this one. We do have another trend line just coming in just underneath. You can see here we've got sort of 0.1, 0.2, 0.3. We may come down and tap that 0.4 first before then pushing back up to the upside. But out of all trades, guys, Aussie dollar is sort of the one that's not really interesting me the most right now. I think we're in a strong long territory at the moment with a strong daily move pushing up. We might be having a push back down. I was looking at possibly taking a short trade from here, but we just sort of turned a bit early, and the news on Friday helped push this down. But we might see this push back up here first, bounce off this daily support, and as I said, always giving that retesting this, always retesting more than once, and retesting to confirm this as resistance first. So we could possibly be looking at a push back up, but at the moment, I'm just keeping an eye on this one. With Canadian dollar being on our watch list, it's only right then to obviously look at it against a basket of different currencies to see how it acts. That's what I talk about cross-referencing, guys. If you're looking at taking a trade on a euro pair, you then want to be looking at all the other euro pairs to see how the euro is behaving. If you're looking at taking a buy on, say, euro USD, but it looks like a sell on euro GBP, euro AUD, euro, and then you've got to think, hold on, maybe my analysis isn't right because all the other euro pairs look like they're going to go down, but I think the euro is going to go up. Obviously, you have the other currency on the pair to think about as well. But for instance, with Canadian dollar now, we're thinking that Canadian dollar could possibly push up to the upside, which means to weaken. But if I think that it's GBP Canadian dollar is going to push up, I want to check how the Canadian dollar is acting against the Australian dollar, the euro and the pound, and then it can help build my confluence. Here we can see I've just taken this consolidation zone on a weekly here from this point on the weekly. You can see the support. So you can see here, since we've had this support, we broke below it, retested, made a new support, by the way. Then we come up, made resistance, retested support, retested resistance, and now we're trying to break out. At the moment, last week we had a push back down, but it's an interesting level to watch out for. Going to be watching out for this one. We can see price is having a push down, but we're starting to creep up, starting to sort of create a trend. We're having a third touch on the trend line here, which is quite interesting. So going to be watching this one to obviously see how the Canadian dollar is going to react. We might have a little push down here, but just keeping an eye on that one. That's also going to be on our watch list, all Canadian dollar pairs. New Zealand dollar, US dollar came right up into that level just as expected. We've had this push down. Nice evening star formation here. 1, 2, 3. Even star formation signaling that price is turning. Then we had that news on Friday that continued this push. But as explained, what we were waiting for on Friday morning after we had this morning star formation was a sort of a retracement back up. Now we've actually pulled down lower, and we're down at this level. So now what we're going to be looking out for is New Zealand dollar, US dollar to come back up, retest, have a retracement. You can see this 50% fib is lining up perfectly with 0.6700. If we come back up, find resistance there, hit the 50% fib, fail to break above the weekly resistance level, then we might be able to look at a nice trade coming down to sort of these regions down here. So that's one I'm keeping out for. My eye on is NZD USD. Then we got the dollar index. So last Sniper Sundays, highlighting we have this sort of room to the downside for the US dollar. We're still making lower lows, lower highs, lower lows. Had a bearish day last week, and then it followed by a bullish day out of the blue, just as we look like we're about to break the monthly support level. So it's been a bit of a choppy one. Then we had a push up, then it spiked and we pushed back down. So it's a bit of a choppy one on the US dollar here at the moment. We keep an eye on that. We have to see how that reacts on as the market opens with the US and Iran news over the weekend, and also with gold. So gold had this breakout down here. So we were watching this breakout before Christmas, and of course this breakout happened on Christmas Eve, or the day before Christmas Eve, when the rest of the markets were fairly quiet. We had a strong breakout. Then Christmas Eve, Christmas Day, Christmas Day's not there. The following day after Christmas Day, and it's just been moving ever since. So a lot of people would have missed out on this move because of the time of year that it happened. But we can see that this is going to push up and retest 1550. We're around those levels now. This is now got very, very interesting. Now remember, what we're looking out for on this is this weekly trend line coming across the top here, and we're just breaking through it now. So we've had a bit of a strong break. So we're going to stand back and watch this one for the moment. We have to see how the market's going to react over the weekend. This could move very, very fast. This could continue to push up higher. But at the moment, it's coming up to the highs made last year, and we haven't been above this level since back in 2013. So looking very, very strong at the moment. Just on the weekly chart here as well, we can see we've had a little bit of a pullback. Tapped off was 1450, and now we're pushing up. However, I think from here we could still see another push back down to the downside, and then possibly have a bigger push back up. But I have to see what happens here. It's all going to be affected by what happens with the news. Safe haven, money could be poured into gold if the tensions rise with the US and Iran, and we could see a big pump up with gold. But should everything be resolved in the next week or so, and everything, all the tensions settle, then we could see this push back down. But at the moment, there's a lot of tensions with the US and different parts of the world. So for the moment, I would imagine gold to continue to be bullish. So I'm not looking at taking a trade on this just yet. There might be a possible long trade, but there's no setup for us just yet. But very, very interesting levels on gold at the moment. See how this reacts over the next few days, and we'll see how we react around these as it comes up to sort of make this double top. But yeah, we're not going to try and take a trade on this just yet. This is a fast moving train. We don't want to get in the way of it. We might be able to jump on board, but we have to just wait until we can actually gain access or gain entry. We just at the moment it's not really giving us that. We don't know. Things could change. We've seen on when we had the US and China news not so long ago last year, that even though it's pushing up, we can have a big push down one day and then spike back up again. It could be quite erratic. So that's why it's going to be hard to trade this one. But we can keep an eye on gold and see where it wants to go. And then the last one is oil. Keeping an eye on oil as well. Obviously, oil has been highly affected because of the Iran situation. So keeping an eye on this one. We reached these highs the last time the oil field was blown up had an explosion in Iran, and this was the high that we reached. We had 1,000 pip trade here, and then we fell off ever since. And now we've been progressively just making higher highs, higher lows. Broke above this sort of what could have been forming as a right shoulder to this sort of left shoulder here. Broke above, retested as support. Now we're retesting this as resistance. Keeping an eye on it here. We have to see what happens again. They're so fundamentally based that we have to see what happens over the weekend and let the dust settle on Monday to then choose what or try and understand what might be happening next. So that's about it. That's it for the moment, guys. We covered quite a few pairs there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19 pairs. 19 pairs covered. 17 forex, 2 commodities, or 16 forex, 2 commodities, and the dollar index. So quite a lot there covered. Quite a lot of direction and biases given. Quite confident coming into next week. Really looking forward to the market opening up and to start taking some of these intraday trades as well. So yeah, let's get the market open. Let's get going. January is going to be a busy month. Really looking forward to it. So yeah, hope you liked today's episode. Quite a lot of detail, and let's get ready for the first proper trading week of the year. Speak to you soon, guys. Thank you.